Hi everyone, I'm Kate Theobald. This is my video post for Module 2. While there were several different populations to focus on in this module, I really want to talk specifically about Chapter 3 that we read with student athletes and how that is actually a marginalized group. I really want to focus on that because it's not a group that we typically think of as being a marginalized group, and it's not a group that I myself typically think of as being a marginalized group. So it's very interesting for me to explore that population. It opens by saying that college athletes are often labeled as privileged, lazy, incapable, and disinterested students who are motivated to enroll in higher education only for the sole purpose of participating in athletics. Goes on to say that the perceptions that people have about athletes, combined with institutions' low expectations for student athletes' academic performance and goals, have had a significant impact on the students' collegiate experiences. I think that's really true. We do have low expectations for athletes' academic performance. Whether that is good or bad, I mean, so probably that's a bad thing that we have low expectations for our athletes. That is a reality. I mean, I've done that. I know that other people probably have the same thoughts, and that's why we're reading about it. Not a group that we typically see as marginalized, but actually is a marginalized group, and reading this has made me realize, you know, it's time to change some of those paradigms that I hold about student athletes, and that, you know, they should be seen as students in the same light as everyone else. I was talking to a friend about this and about the readings that we were doing, and he was a football player in high school and shared a situation with me in which he was actually told as a high school senior that he should not take honors physics because he's a football player, as if those two things were tied together and related, which I don't think they are related. You can be a football player and be really great at physics, or be a football player and really be terrible at physics, but I don't think that football is the causation of either one of those outcomes. So I think that definitely just first to acknowledge that this is a marginalized group is huge. I think that's a big step in my research and study, and also in the way that I think about student populations. Excuse me. One thing that I did have a question about, I guess, and maybe some of you can weigh in on through the discussion, was on page 31, towards the bottom of the page in the teamwork section. It says, athletic programs should be open to involving parents and guardians in activities and conversations concerning their students' academic studies. And my question there was why? Why should the parents be involved at the collegiate level? You know, we're not doing this for other populations, or are we doing it for other populations? I don't believe so, that parents have a lot of involvement. I wonder how that's affected with FERPA. Are we saying that athletes should sign FERPA waivers so that their parents can be more involved in their education? And why is that a need for this specific population to have the parental involvement? Of course, there are several groups of students who may struggle, and there are some students who they may not fit into what is traditionally considered a marginalized group, and they're struggling. But our go-to within higher education is not to bring in the parents for that extra support. It's to use the supports that are available on campus, tutoring centers, professors, supplemental instruction, things like that are available on campus, rather than getting the parental support and the parental backup. So I was just wondering why athletic programs should be open to involving parents. Kind of what the thought process was with that. I found that to be somewhat interesting. As a whole, definitely I think that we can see this population as a marginalized group, and I think that the article that we read offered some really great insights. Though I would have liked to have seen some more exploration of the research, some further details of the findings. How did the research lead to these findings? I feel like it was a really short article. It didn't offer us a lot of insight into the research process. I mentioned internet searches as a primary tool. Very few institutions were included. So it makes me wonder, you know, if further research is needed. I think that it is. Excuse me. But just on the surface level, I think I learned a lot from this chapter. I'm curious to hear other people's thoughts about the parental involvement piece, but I would like to see what further research is available out there concerning student athletes as a marginalized population.